All right, let's get the microphone test out of the way early here today. Let me know if you can hear me across the various chats. Got quite a few people in the various chats across the streams here. We've got YouTube, X, and Twitch. If you are in the X.com or Twitch chat and you would like to chat, I do suggest you head over to the YouTube link there for Landy's Crypto Corner so that you can chat with the wider group. Most of the people that show up to chat actually chat in the YouTube group there, and it's a little bit difficult for me to track some of those other chats with the current plugins right now. And then we do have one private stream going for people who cannot access those websites. So go ahead and let me know if you can hear me okay. And we're going to get started in about 2 minutes. All right, let's get the music under control here, and we're going to get started in about 20 seconds. All right, let's just roll right on into it. Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is February 19th, 2024. It is a holiday over here in the United States, and we are doing a Macro Monday holiday edition here where we will even just be looking at Bitcoin today as traditional markets are closed. Let's go ahead and, see where Bitcoin is on the Bollinger Bands to start here. We can see that the upper first standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands is now coming in at $51,000. Bitcoin is trading above there. And if it did lose that area, we would have to look at horizontal support and resistance. We'll get to that in just a moment, though, on the support and resistance chart. But as long as Bitcoin is trading and closing daily candles above the upper first here at 51K, then that does make the upper second standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands available. That is now coming in just under $55,000. So, as I've been saying, if Bitcoin can get over the $53,000 swing high, which is going to be shown in just a moment on the support and resistance chart, then I would be looking mid $50,000. And, maybe even a wick through a little bit higher if it was able to get there. So as long as Bitcoin is trading and specifically closing candles above the upper first, that keeps that target to the upside available. And that is typical of what we see when Bitcoin enters a price volatility cooldown or BBWP volatility cooldown. while we're still seeing expansion of the Bollinger Bands. Now, the nice thing about the bull bands right now is we do see that the lower first and lower second and even the lower third now have a positive slope. That is a bullish indication. Of course, that does mean that if Bitcoin hangs out, keeps going sideways, we will see compression of the Bollinger Bands as the basis continues to head up towards price action. Now, if Bitcoin does lose that upper first at $51,000, in general, that preserves the basis as a potential downside target. Currently, that's coming in at just over that monthly level at $47,000. It is sitting at $47,200. So that's just kind of to start things out. We'll take a little bit deeper look here in just a moment, but let's go ahead and look at the Stoke. Now I'm going to turn off the advanced Stoke because that is not a free indicator. You can get that from app.crontrading.net. That's by KVDB. I do not have any affiliation. I don't make any money or anything. If you were to ever go over there, I just like the developers there. There is free versions of Stokes with pivots and stuff like that. That other indicator that was just on the chart has some extra bells and whistles that really aren't needed for this analysis right here. If you want to get a Stoke with pivots, this is by Trader Hully. It's called the BA Reverse Stoke Panel. And in this case, we can see that Stoke is pivoted at 52,440. So about 52,500 above there. And we would see Stoke turn back to the upside. It is currently facing down with both the K and the D read. We do see that we have mean reversion in play right now in terms of price volatility or BBWP volatility. So if Bitcoin did lose the upper first and head back towards the basis, for instance, we would see this dramatically fall off. But as long as it's above the upper first, even when we see BBWP curled over like this with the moving average turned down, we can still see that upper second standard deviation tagged. So keep that in mind from the daily perspective. Let's go ahead over to the support and resistance chart real quick and define some criteria here. So if Bitcoin can maintain closures above this weekly here at 51.8, that preserves its chance from a support and resistance standpoint and a Bollinger Band standpoint, at least for right now, of Bitcoin heading up to the upper second. So if it can trade above 53, then we're looking to the mid $50,000 area around that upper second on the daily. We can even see that the upper third is now working its way up to the 58.8 area. That is an overhead monthly resistance. That's going to be a zone. We can go ahead and when we get to the monthly chart, we can mark this off with a nice little yellow box zone or orange box zone between 58.8 and 61,350. Of course, above there, not much going on until the all-time highs at the wicks at 65 and 69K respectively. Now, if Bitcoin does lose this weekly zone at 51.8 to 50,800, then we start looking to the left for horizontal support and resistance as it relates to the Bollinger Bands. Now, in this case, we do have the wick high over here at 49K. You can call it $49,000 to $50,000 as there is an order block just above here at around that $50,000 area, coming in at 49,725 or so to 49K. And then there is the monthly just below it. Now, this is the bear market monthly swing high from 2022 at 48,230. Below there, then we're looking right to that monthly by the daily basis band at $47,000 or so. And this is a monthly zone that you can take if we do start to see price in that area. And when I say take, I mean evaluate realistically. This is a viable target to the downside. Should Bitcoin start to lose this March 2022 monthly swing high at 48,230, then we're looking to 47K by the basis, all the way down to the next monthly here at 45.5, where we do see a little bit of resistance prior to the move up. We saw resistance getting front ran at about $45,000 just prior to hitting this 45.5 and wicking through it to about $46,000. So very, very important area down here. But you can also see now that the lower first standard deviation is above this important weekly zone where Bitcoin was consolidating right around 43,200 to 500, where we saw this consolidation come in. Of course, the wick high of that consolidation is coming in right around 43.9 to 44K, depending on your exchange. So we would be looking at that as an area of interest if this monthly here at 45.5, and specifically this close open down here at 45K where this wick is coming in is lost. Now below there is still supports down here, and this is kind of the last area for the bulls if things did fall this far at around 41.8 where this wick low is coming into this weekly here. Below that, I would be looking for Bitcoin to run the bottom side of the tighter consolidation prior to the deviation up and down to the monthly. And in this case, the lower second is one of the primary targets as this begins to move up. It's currently around that deviation low at around 39.5, a little bit above there towards 40. But, even down to the weekly there at 39K to the monthly again at 38,500. Now that's a pretty aggressive move down. If we did see something like that, it would change the picture on some higher term time frames. But in this case, not really my first take on price action. We have a nice uptrend going here, and I would expect things to pull back at minimum into higher low closing positions before we evaluate for a possible trend break or trend change with lower highs or lower lows breaking. In this case, we haven't even seen a closing we haven't even seen a closing high rather put in just yet. If we did see things closing below that upper first at around 51K, I would say that the closing high is in. As it stands right now, we have a swing high to a swing low locally, which still preserves that chance for Bitcoin to go up and hit the mid $50,000 region. Of course, we'll have to see what tomorrow brings, and of course the rest of today's price action as well. And if we go to some of the higher term timeframes, we've got a 2-day that's going to be closing today with the daily. We can see the upper second standard deviation is currently the rejective zone around the highs here at 53,400 or so. And that, from the 2-day perspective, does, of course, if Bitcoin closes below the upper second, does give us a potential downside zone of interest in terms of volatility bands on the 2-day chart to that upper first, which is at 48,500 or so. That's going to move up after today's close, might even be around $49,000 by this wick high. So again, right back to looking at this zone of interest right here at around the wick high at 49 to the March of 2022 monthly swing high at 48,230, possibly even down to that daily basis band where the monthly is coming in at 47K. Those are going to be the big areas to watch to the downside. If things don't get picked up there, then we're looking further down, of course. But seeing the upper first there on the 2-day, and as we go through some of the other higher term time frames, at least higher term than the daily, we're looking at this as still being very, very bullish, especially if Bitcoin is trading anywhere above and closing candles above, specifically the upper first. That's pretty aggressively bullish, and still very bullish above the upper first to basis area. And the basis on the 2-day is now coming in at 44,500. So it is above the prior consolidation highs, that being prior to the move up on this particular higher low structure here. When looking at the 3-day, we've got a couple days for this to get rolling. So this will close with tomorrow's daily candle. In this case, we can see Bitcoin is above the upper second standard deviation. So if it does close the 3-day at the end of tomorrow's closure, that being Tuesday's candle, above 5150, 51,500, sorry, it's not that crazy. But in this case, if it closes above there, we're going to see more aggressive expansion of the Bollinger Bands to the upside. We see the upper first is right around $48,000. So again, right in that March of 2022 monthly bear market monthly swing high. Below there, we can see the basis is above the consolidation prior to the move up to the local highs here. That is coming in at right around 44,400. We see BBWP is still marching up 80 over 55. And actually, let's go back to the 2-day real quick. It is still moving. The moving average is still below BBWP. So BBWP is at an 86 over 83. So still volatility expansion with Bollinger Band expansion on the 2-day and the 3-day. We see that the 3-day is pivoted at 44. It's right around that basis band. So it's pivoted at 44, 400 or so. 2-day is going to be right around $50,000. So 49,880. So basically 49.9. We see volatility still getting expansion there in the 2-day versus the 3-day is still in liftoff mode. So giving us the bias that this move is not yet over to the upside. And at minimum, it is expected to remain on the highs around the upper first and upper second, at least till we see some kind of a structural change on the daily. The 4-day won't be closing until Wednesday's candle. Bitcoin is trading above that upper second, which is coming in right at that weekly at 50,800. So that weekly is right here. That's in this yellow weekly zone. That's where the daily upper first is right now at 50,800. Of course, Bitcoin is trading right now on the top side of this weekly structure from 2021 in this case, and that's at around that 51.8 area. So 50,800 to 51.8 is going to be the local zone to watch. If we do see that area lost at 50,800 from the 4-day chart perspective, then the upper first is a viable target to the downside. That is coming in just above that monthly at 47,600. It's also above the prior 4-day closing high, which is coming in at $47,000 right at the monthly. Of course, any price action or trading below there and the timeframes below the 4-day would give us the bias that the basis here on the 4-day is a viable target as well. That is above the prior consolidation, prior to the move up in this case, from the daily perspective, 2-day perspective, and 3-day perspective. That's coming in around 44,400 as well. It's actually at 44,369. Nice. I'm not looking too much further down than that, at least until we were to see that little consolidation where there is now a 4-day order block around the 42.5 to $43,000 on a close open there. High side open to the low side close at around that 42, upper 42s, 42.6, 42.5 region, depending on your exchange. But that would be provided Bitcoin closed below the basis. Then we start looking there and lower. In this case, still preserves that upside as long as it's above 50,850 in this case. At the upper second, the upper third is up there coming in at $54,000. Not abnormal to see when you see a compression like this for that upper third to get hit. So that's where that daily upper second is right now, about $1,000 above that, coming in just below 55. So again, still preserving that mid $50,000 territory as potential to the upside before looking for any kind of major consolidation or wider pullbacks. And to be quite frank with you, it could even run further than that to some of the monthly areas at 58.8 and 61,350 or higher. That is definitely not out of the question. We do have a 5-day closing with today's daily candle. The upper second is at 51,166 right now. So any closure today above there will kick off further expansion of the Bollinger Bands to the upside. Probably going to end up right around the close opens up here at around 51.8 at the weekly. The upper first is above the prior close open on the 5-day now, coming in at 46.6 to 46.7 or so. The upper first is right at the monthly, basically at 47K. So kind of have that monthly $47,000 target area as the primary area between 47 and 45.5. Below there, of course, if we saw closures below there, wicks are fine, but closes below start to change the bias around towards looking at that basis, which is currently coming in at this 5-day area right around $43,000 on the close. So yeah, it's a close open rather. And this is honestly really beautiful structure. This is still a nice uptrend on the 5-day. We see BBWP expansion. When looking at Stoke on the 4-day versus the 5-day, we'll start with the 5-day and then look at the 4-day. 43.9 9 basically to 44K, which is above that prior consolidation prior to the move up to these new highs for this yearly. And in this case, pointed to the upside here for the 5-day, looking like it's a likely continuation coming into the close today. The 4-day is at 44,240, 44,250 area. So from these longer term timeframes, looking very good in terms of pressure to the upside and Bollinger Band levels coming in to very important areas of support and resistance as well. So giving us that that volatility match in terms of standard deviations lining up with horizontal support and resistance is what you want to see. And right now, Bitcoin's in a very bullish position across all of these time frames, including up to the weekly here, which is now pointed to the upside with the pivot at 47,393, so basically 47,400. That is below the monthly area that we were talking about. We did see the upper second get walked up a bit here. We see BBWP expansion 23/13, about 10% higher than the moving average there. So above the upper first, which is coming in at 46,783, meaning that we could see wicks all the way down there. And as long as we don't see closes below the weekly pivot there, we wouldn't see a cross back down in our Stoke, and Stoke being pointed up around that 47,400. So that's really eyes on that monthly. If we do see price drop, the 50K area start losing 48,230 around that bear market swing high, then we really got to pay attention to that monthly at 47K, because the pivot is just above it for the weekly Stoke, as well as the upper first area. And as long as Bitcoin is trading above the upper first, we could even see an initial cross back to the downside. But as long as it's closing above the upper first, that would preserve targets to the upside around the upper second and higher, which is currently coming in at $53,000, which $53,000 is the September of 21 weekly swing high prior to a major rundown into the $30,000 area. I believe from the weekly perspective, this swing high was back here, and it even got, it was the upper $30,000 area, so around $39,000 to $40,000 on the weekly there. If Bitcoin takes that, I would expect mid 50s, which would place it above the upper second standard deviation. If we saw any closures above there, then we start looking to the deeper $50,000 area and possibly low 60s. And as long as Bitcoin's trading above that upper first, it's very bullish. Of course, if it did lose the upper first, it's still bullish above the basis band, which is now coming in at $40,000, which is above the prior swing low on the weekly. I really wouldn't want to see any weekly closures to remain, bullish on this particular move to continue. I wouldn't want to see at least continue in the context of moving up very quickly. It would likely consolidate for a little bit of an extended period of time or get a longer term deviation. We really don't want to see closes below 41,550 or so, which is the close open of the higher low structure on the weekly. So we have a full uptrend now. We have Bollinger Band expansion. We see BBWP is over the moving average now on the weekly, and we have seen this follow through with and I wasn't sure if this was going to happen, but we do have a slight positive slope on the moving average for the weekly. I wasn't actually expecting that, but because BBWP moved up more aggressively, because Bitcoin closed near that upper second standard deviation, we did actually get that moving average confirm BBWP expansion. That does not mean that it's destined to take off immediately, but if it does meet the criteria on the weekly of trading above the upper second and or continues to walk it up and remain closing, at least on the weekly, remains closing above that upper first, we're likely to see this coming weekend, Sunday closing, fully confirm price volatility expansion in the context of Bollinger Band expansion, which, to be fair, the move is fairly extended, but we're entering that phase where, price volatility is going to start getting higher. as we move into the halving, and we could see dramatic moves to the downside that get picked up again, and then things just continue to march on, that kind of thing. So a little bit of a reset. Um, I'll be honest with you, what I would like to see. Here's what I would like to see. I would like to see Bitcoin preferably hang out in and around the upper second, coming in towards that halving time frame. And then come down, maybe even lose the upper first, but hit the basis above this close open here at 41,550, and then just blast off to outer space. That would be the preferred setup. That's not the most likely setup, by the way, but that would be the preferred setup that I would like to see in terms of structural price action. Now, when we start going higher than the weekly, getting into the 2-week, we are going to have a 2-week closure with this coming weekly closure. And if Bitcoin is closing above the upper second, we will see continued price volatility expansion of BBWP, right around a 60 right now at 59.58 over a 54. So it's not really anything too crazy, but it is expansion. So this is confirming, expansion. We could even see BBWP get below the moving average on the 2-week. And as long as the moving average has a positive slope, if it gets back above, it's continuation to the upside. We can see that the upper first on the 2-week chart is right at this prior close open. Now, this was a swing high to a swing low on the 2-week chart. So somewhere around the low $42,000 range, 42,300 is going to be the area to watch for if Bitcoin were to aggressively dump off to the downside at any point in relation to the 2-week chart. But this is going to move up. So let's say Bitcoin does trade and close above the upper second. This is looking like further continuation into the mid and possibly deeper $50,000 region, maybe even low 60s rather. But we're going to see this upper first begin to start getting above these wicks at somewhere around 44.5 to 45.5, which is by that major monthly area. The basis, now where I would like to see this next at the close of this weekly candle and 2-week candle coming up, is somewhere around this 38,500 monthly. It's currently just below another monthly area, coming in at 34,500. And this is good, but we want to see it above $35,000 and then above 38,500, which are two big monthly zones. And that is coming in right here. So let's go ahead and take a look. This is big, big, big down here from the daily and weekly perspective. Let's go down to the daily just so we can kind of see how price reacted in these areas. We can see that 35,000, well, there's a weekly at 34,750 to $35,000, which is a big monthly zone, was tested as resistance. Bitcoin moved through, found it as short-term support, spiked into another liquid weekly zone between 36.2 to 3 and 37.7. Came back down and spiked right into that $35,000 and tagged that weekly at 34,758. It was like 3 cents off the actual weekly close, which is near perfect. We saw this again, of course, when Bitcoin marched up to 38,500, found it as resistance, moved through to the weekly at 39K, came back most recently and tested right into that 38,500 within $1. So beautiful. It was actually within $9. It was at 38,501. We were calling for 38,500, which is a little bit of a front run of that monthly at 38,491. But it missed our actual target that we've been calling for there by $1. Not really a big deal. That's well within the margin of error. So 2-week, pay attention to it coming into this week, and I will remind you of that throughout the week during our live streams on Wednesday and Friday as well. When looking at the 3-week, well, we've got quite a bit of time to close this, specifically 2 weeks to close this. So we will get a little bit of a heads up on the weekly and 2-week close, but the 3-week is basically looking to push to the highs. I do want you to understand that as it stands right now on the 3-week chart, anywhere above this upper second standard deviation around $50,000 or so, I am giving it a little bit more aggressive of a target there to hold, because the upper second is at 49,850, but I would say anywhere around $50,000, which is this close open. This is actually 50,800. So this is right in the weekly retest area at 50,800, but it's also a 3-week closing structure here. So close open right there at 50,800 to $50,000. You want to see Bitcoin closing the 3-week above there, and that's really going to preserve the chance to go hit around 58, 58.8. And then from the 3-week perspective, we're looking all the way up to 65, and the highs here at the highs, the first high of 2021, just prior to putting in the all-time high at $69,000. So the 3-week is actually looking very, very good, as in it's looking as if it wants to take the all-time highs minimum on the closes there at 58 to 58.8 on the daily, 61,350 to $65,000 minimum, and maybe even go for the all-time high at 69. And this bias is primarily driven by BBWP being at a 53 over 38. So we do see expansion on the 3-week, nice upside angle of the Bollinger Bands. We even have the lower first still pointed up. Yes, we do see expansion to the downside of the lower second. We actually want to see that. We want to see closures above the upper second begin to, from the 3-week time frame perspective, begin to actually flatten out the lower first and send the lower second down, because that's going to further confirm that we're getting a wider expansion of the Bollinger Bands away from the basis, as Bitcoin just kind of grinds above the upper first here. In as long as the 3-week is closing above the upper first, which is at $41,000, that preserves the upper second as a target. That is coming in at that 49,850. I'm going to call it $50,000, a little bit more aggressive on that target there. But above here, we can, potentially see the upper third hit. And of course, that's coming in the $58,000 high area, right in line with the first all-time high put in after the 2017 all-time high, before pulling back in any major way. And that was at 58,300, perfectly lining up with that upper third there. We can see, the Stoke is still riding pretty high here in the overbought zone. There's nothing wrong with that. 52,200 is the current momentum pivot. I'm not as concerned about this as long as it's in the bullish half or strong half above a 50 read, and especially above a 60 read, which would be considered the edge of the bullish control zone for a regular Stoke. Looking great, and it's primarily driven by this, and that's going to be the expansion of BBWP and the expansion of the Bollinger Band. So as long as Bitcoin is closing above the upper first on the 3-week chart, this is looking like continued expansion to the upside, targeting the all-time highs. And that's going to be on any closes on this 3-week above 41,400. So if Bitcoin were to aggressively drop into the 38,500 monthly, or even lower, let's say down to the basis band on the 3-week here, which is above these prior highs, right? And the $30,500, $30,000 area, as long as it closed back above the basis or upper first, this is going to be up and to the right from the context of this chart. Now, I would be cautious because we have a swing high to a swing low to another high here. And if this low were taken out at 38,500, wouldn't be the best look. It would look more like longer form consolidation and a much wider range. But as it stands right now, it is set up for continuation. When extrapolating that out into the 4-week chart, which is going to be closing at the end of this week's candle with the 2-week chart, we can see that we are looking at a nice compression to re-expansion, and any closures above the upper second at 46,785, and especially above the monthly at 47K, it'd be looking very, very strong. This would be continued expansion of the Bollinger Bands. And from the 4-week chart, it's already targeting this high by its current upper third right there at $55,000, almost 56. So again, we're looking at that mid $50,000 region to the 4-week closing highs up here, which are coming in right around that general area around 63, 65K, of course, the wick high over here, and then 69K being the all-time high. This is genuinely targeting the all-time highs right now. at when looking at rather the 4-week chart. The upper first is now right around that 38,500 wick low here, and that is of the prior 4-week candle. It is slightly lower than that, but it's going to be closing this week and likely moving up somewhere at minimum around that 42,300 area. So again, right in a big weekly zone between 41.8 and 43 2 to 3 or so. And it might even be a little bit more aggressive than that if Bitcoin can close above the upper second there and that monthly around $47,000. Looking very good. Next piece that I do want to see is the basis getting above this close open here at 30,250 and especially above the wick high at 31.8, which was the 4-week closing structure over here. So this was also the monthly breakdown. So the close open on the monthly that sent things down into the bear market new lows. That was at 31.8. That was a big area we talked about prior. When looking at the monthly, trading above the upper second towards that upper third, which is still a target. That's in the mid $50,000 area between 55 and 56K. Of course, trading above this 45.5 monthly and especially above $47,000 on the monthly, which is this guy over here. We are targeting the next monthly zone at 58.8 to 61,350, 65K, and then of course 69K. So this is confirmed Bollinger Band expansion. Be aware that if Bitcoin does drop the upper second in any time frame below the monthly, the upper first is the natural target. That is coming in right around 37,500. So again, we're looking at that monthly area at 37 to 37,500. Of course, 37 is going to be this, or 38,500. So 37 is actually, it's actually below 38,500. So that would be in between 38,500 and this monthly here at $35,000. My apologies. 40. I was thinking 47, which is going to be this close open right here. But above the upper first, that would be the natural target. We have seen this area hit after expansion and just prior to expansion in every single bull market cycle. So it's not out of the ordinary to tag that upper first. But of course, if it closes anywhere above it, that's going to move up pretty aggressively and likely be somewhere around, 45.5 to 47 here, where it is currently in between this 35 and 38.5 monthly. Below there, Bitcoin still bullish above the basis band, and that's coming in at 28.5. If Bitcoin closes anywhere above the upper first, we're going to see this likely start to move towards the 30,500 monthly high, or monthly close open, I should say, and the 31,850 swing high or wick high, which again is this close open that kicked off the bear market lows. We broke the actual lows of the prior bull market over here in two places at 28.8. That was the line in the sand there. The close open at 31,800 is what did it. Of course, that's exactly where Bitcoin found monthly resistance before putting in a nice swing low and lower low, to be fair, on a close. This wasn't really a low structure, but this is higher low structure on a close, but did not pass the wick low there at 24,750 and then up and away. Beautiful. We're seeing that we're already getting into the 36 percentile for BBWP over a 29, so confirmed expansion on the monthly time frame. And I would expect that to continue on any closes above the upper first. Again, that upper first coming in below that monthly support at 38,500. So looks beautiful. And, although the upper first standard deviation still in play, especially if Bitcoin does drop around $47,000, it's, if it closes above it, we got to look for that upper first to come up quite a bit more and kick off more aggressive expansion to the upside from the monthly perspective. Of course, we still have, about what is it? We've got seven, 8, 9, 10 days to go, leap year. So got 10 days to go in the monthly. So the time frames below the monthly, especially coming into the end of this weekly candle, are going to be the most important ones to watch. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the higher term time frame look on Bitcoin. So we can go ahead and take a look at some lower term time frame setups. Let's go down to the 4 hour and see what's going on here. We see that Bitcoin is in a range in terms of the Bollinger Bands, and it's a very clear one at that. So there is very specific criteria for Bitcoin to meet for continuation and for breakdown here. Very, very, very easy. If Bitcoin can trade back above the upper second and start closing candles there at above 52,500, that would put it above its local high on a close, and a wick here, giving us targets right back to the wick highs here at 52,600 and just below $53,000 at the wick high of the current range at 52,890. So realistically, we would see expansion above resistance on any closes for the 4 hour above the upper second at 52.5, targeting somewhere around 53. And then, of course, then we're probably looking at the mid $50,000 region, maybe even more. Now, if Bitcoin does lose the lower second, it actually has a little bit of downside protection here because it would have to meet two criteria in order to get continuation to the downside. At minimum, if we do see a close below the lower second standard deviation at 51,200, we would be targeting this closing low to wick low, and that's coming in at 50,990, so basically 51K, to the wick low here at 50,650 or so. If it did drop this area, then we can start targeting this guy over here. So we did not see this area tagged at 50,423, but that would be the next natural area to the close open highs here at somewhere around, $50,000. So $50,000 is lost. Then we start looking towards, $49,000 on the prior wick high part of this move up. And then that bear market monthly swing high at 48,230, and then eyes on 47K at the monthly below there if that area was lost. Very, very clear, very, very easy. This is primarily going to be the setup that I'm watching as it relates to the 6 hour, which we saw come in and get a very beautiful compression. Now the 6 hour is also just as clear as the 4 hour. We start closing candles back above 52.5. We would see 6 hour re-expansion to the upside. That would be above all of the closes here, targeting the wick high at around $53,000, and then probably getting expansion into the mid $50,000 region, maybe even more, up to the deeper 50,000, maybe even low 60s. And if it does start to lose the lower second, it still needs to meet the criteria of breaking down below this close open and wick low. And that is at 51.5 below the lower second. So anywhere below there, it would still need to take out 51,200. And then, of course, take out that wick low on a close at around 50,650, 50,500 by these wicks over here to get continuation down into the $50,000 area, possibly testing that prior wick high at 49K. This is clear as day. This is some of the easiest trading you're going to get when Bitcoin comes off of a nice expansion to compression like this. If it breaks the highs, it's going to run. All right, that's pretty much it. And then if it breaks and closes below and starts getting expansion down, you got to pay very close attention to the local support range. If it starts to drop that, you just step it down one higher time frame support at a time. This is beautiful. I love it. We do see that Stoke is pointed to the upside. It's looking a little tired on this particular candle, but 51,660 is going to be that lower second standard deviation. So around that 51, 4, 51.6 area by the lower second. If it was to get down there, pay attention to that area because that would be an initial cross down. But still, you got to just pay attention to the local range before stepping it down. In terms of targets, we do see that BBWP is very low as noted with this sideways consolidation that has gotten compression on the bands as well. The 4 hour, as it relates to the 6 hour, is beginning to turn down, but it is in the bullish half of the Stoke here. 52,200 would turn that back to the upside. We see that BBWP is dramatically dropping, indicating that price volatility can float around between this upper second and lower second. And it's not until we see closes below or above that we start looking for re-expansion. Of course, that is 52.5 and 51.2. That's going to be your early indicator. Below 51,200, that it's probably going to come down and test at minimum 51K and maybe even the mid 50s, and then just keep a close eye on it. And then, of course, to the upside, upper second, and it still has to beat out the highs there at just under 53. So easy stuff, easy stuff. The hourly is probably looking like it's going to turn on Stoke, judging by the structure. It is, it did have an uptrending structure and a trend break now. Swing lower highs to swing lower lows, closing lower highs, and closing lower lows as it relates to the uptrending structure. But it's getting down there towards the oversold zone. If we do start to see this turning, at least for the current hourly closure, we're looking at 51.8, so that weekly as being the big area to watch, and it's trading right around there right now. So keep a close eye on the hourly as it relates to the 4 hour, 6 hour, and then the 6 hour as it relates to what I'm going to show you next, and that's the 12 hour here, which is giving it, well, guess what? It's giving us the bias that it could potentially go and test around the basis and wick low area in the mid $50,000 area at 50,650. So funny how that all lines up, huh? And if it does regain the upper first here on the 12 hour at 52,400, that would also be the 12 hour close open. So if it did close above there, 53 is the target up to the upper second at around $54,000 to $55,000. We do see that this is mean reverting pretty hard in terms of BBWP as price goes sideways and the basis moves up. So I wouldn't necessarily be looking for this to blast off to outer space, but it's getting a wider range because of the expansion on the 12 hour in terms of areas that it can hit to the upside and downside. You can see that if the basis was dropped, the lower first is coming in at $49,000. Hey, go figure. That is the wick high area over here. And then below there, we see the lower second is coming in right around the close opens there at 47,150, and that's where that monthly is, right around that area at $47,000. So to be quite honest, things are looking sideways and up at the moment. 47's lost, then we're looking at a more aggressive pullback to the downside. And honestly, a pullback from here to 47 is quite a pullback anyway. The ranges are going to get bigger as volatility remains high. So that is to be expected. $4,000 and $5,000 candles are to the upside and downside, even on wicks, are in the future. As we've already seen quite a run up anyway. I mean, this was a 30% run up from low structure compression to the high side expansion here. Let's just revisit that real quick and take a look. So price range, that was that was about 25% from that particular move. If you're going to take the compression consolidation, which I typically don't, from the 12 hour, I like to see the compression to re-expansion. And if it holds the lows during the compression, that's usually where I like to get into my swing positions for the 12 hour chart. But from the actual range consolidation, beginning is actually over here. Got about a 27%. That's a big freaking move of over $10,000 there at 11,272. From the actual wicks, it's about a $10,500 move. A little bit over 10.5. So big $10,000 candles up, $5,000 candles down, and then $5,000 candles up. Not out of the question from here, and whichever comes first really doesn't matter. Just enjoy the ride, because the compression on the 4 hour, 6 hour is going to give you the story right away. especially on the downside. If it holds the lows, if it does happen to go down and it holds these lows, you're probably going to see it spring right back to the top side of whatever expansive phase this begins. That's likely. That's not a given. It is likely, though. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for today in terms of my analysis. We're not going to get into anything outside of Bitcoin. We'll revisit on Wednesday Dixie, gold and traditional markets, and maybe even some other coins. I will take a quick look around the... Nope, that's not what I want. We're going to go crypto. What else do we have popping off? Okay, yeah, so we had... we'll just take a quick look at ETH. ETH is looking very, very strong. In fact, the 4-hour is, maybe ETH is going to lead the charge here. This is confirmed expansion to the upside. Likely targeting around 3,000 to 3,200 or so if this continues like this. What about the 6-hour? 6-hour, same thing. Nice little compression to re-expansion. Nice hold of the basis band here. 76 over 56. Yeah, this is, unless it turns right here and spikes back down, anywhere around 28.50 to the basis here at 28.30 and holds it. Looking good. It could even come all the way down to 27.75 to 2800 and still very, very bullish at the moment. Let's look at the daily. I haven't looked at the daily in a while. Yeah, so you would want to see it hold around the deeper 27 area, so 27.60, 27.75. Preferred for expansion purposes here. It is in the mean reversion phase in terms of BBWP, but as long as it's above the upper first, it preserves the targets to the upside around 3K to 3,200 or so. Is Stoke getting up there? Yes, it's very far up there. We do see that BBWP is headed down. So, even though it is getting close, I don't think it's over just yet, especially when looking at the 2-day. Unless it drops the 2-day pivot, around 2,700, then we start looking further down. Man, even above the upper first, it's looking very strong. Very nice. I did get into a nice trade off the lows for ETH in the low 2K region. And I did aggressively take profit in and around this area because I felt like 3K would get front ran, but I still got a little bit of that trade open. So judging by the 3-day, 4-day, I'm going to leave that open. Very nice. But yeah, looking good. ETH might tell us the story if it starts pulling back aggressively. If Bitcoin isn't taken off while alts are pulling back, then we're likely going to see a wider pullback. But Bitcoin's holding that 51.8 weekly very, very nicely here. Let's turn it over to you guys in the chats there. Let me know if you have any questions. If you are in the YouTube chat and or any other chats, I do suggest you go over to Landy's Crypto Corner on YouTube and enter the chat there. I do see quite a few people idling, not many chatting at the moment. We've only got No Name, Baba, Bobby, and Roka chatting at the moment. But if anybody has any questions about Bitcoin or any comments or things that you're seeing that you'd like to bring to my attention, go ahead and enter it in the chat here. I'm going to turn the music back on. We'll put Emerald on here. Let's see. This is some synthwave stuff. Sorry if it's not your jam. I apologize, but I think it's okay. All right. I think it's fitting for digital currencies. All right, let's go ahead and back to the chart here. We can go down to like a 15-minute, and we can see that this is probably setting up for a bounce. Yeah, if we can get about 51.9 in the next 15-minute candle or so, it's likely to bounce, or if it holds the lows, it's likely to bounce. At least it's looking that way. It's not a given. If it loses the wick low here by the lower second at 51,671, then it's probably going to head down towards the mid 51s and maybe even low 51 area. But you let me know if you have any questions, comments here, and I'm going to just peruse the chats real quick. Hey guys, yeah, I can't really monitor some of these other chats. The plugins for the particular capture software that I'm using and streaming software that I'm using doesn't allow me to interact with any of you in the X chat. So if you want to come on over to the YouTube chat, you're more than welcome. Same goes for the Twitch chat. That thing is broken as hell. So if you want to head over to Landy's Crypto Corner, sub the channel and jump right into the chat. It's free, of course. And let me know your thoughts. I'll give you guys a minute to catch up. Of course, if there is no comments, questions, suggestions, then we'll do a few other things and then we'll move on here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the daily while I'm waiting here. Wait for you guys to catch up over there. We'll go ahead and remind ourselves of this high to low deviation of the prior range in terms of fibs, where we are lining up, and look at that, it's the 1272, and of course we've got the 1414 to the upper second there, right around the deeper $54,000 to $55,000 range. You see the 1618 to 1786 coming in around 57 to just under 60 at 59.5. So hit that 1272 after getting above the wick. That is to be expected when looking at fibs. And by the way, this is log scale fibs, but on the daily time frame, it's not going to matter if you're using log or linear. They're going to be nearly exactly the same. It's when you get to the higher term time frames, like the monthly, that it's more important that you use log scale. You will find confluences on linear, even on the longer term time frames, but more appropriate to use log scale. You'll find much cleaner levels of support and resistance as it relates to the fibs. All right, let's look over here. Bobby's talking about ordinals. Of course, ordinals are the hot thing right now, and they will probably remain pretty hot coming into the rest of this bull cycle. And Bobby says he's managing a bracket position, which is a short and long position on Bitcoin in the lower term time frames. Good. Just make sure you don't get greedy and let the one side go when you do see breaks. Yeah, I like the high side consolidation going on right now. Nice swing low, swing high, swing low structure. It stands right now. But if we do see that upper first 51K or so lost, you could even take, in this case, you could even take the 51,666, the devil's number close right there as, you know, confirmed high in on a close. At minimum, looking back to, 49 to 50K. A wick high to the order block just above it. Can I throw on a swing indicator? Yeah, I got one. There's plenty of them on in the indicators tab. So we have nice swing low, swing high, swing higher low, swing lower high, swing higher low. Nice consolidation, breakout, swing higher high, swing higher low. Could this be a lower high that takes out the lower low? Well, that's when we're looking back to those supports we talked about. Otherwise, if it doesn't take that area out, especially below 51, it's up and to the right. At least for local stuff. Yep, Bobby's looking. He's just explaining a little bit about his theory, his process behind what he's looking for in his bracket trade for the range. I mean, bracket trading the high range is fine as long as you are in at minimum equal positions on either side if you're entering bracket trades within the range, and then just let, on a break, just let either the short or the long go and ride the profits on a directional trade from there. Yeah. Yeah, I'll look at traditional market stuff in Wednesday's live stream. Yep. So basically the same as what you explained over the weekend. Yeah, but we just followed it up with the weekly closes and Stoke is turned up on the weekly. We are getting continued expansion. We're doing all the things that you'd want to see to remain bullish on this particular move. As it stands right now, could this week change it? Sure. I mean, get a big massive dump off, put in a high. We're still looking higher low structure though, at least on a closing basis for the daily and weekly. 2 month, yeah, it's going to be closing this month. Anywhere above, we'll discuss this as we come into the weekly close. But the 2 month is upper first is at 48,700 or so. Any close above there gives us the upside targets around the 2 month close open here at 61,350, likely the all-time high 65, 69k, depending on which swing you want to take. Above there, it's expansion to the upside. You know, we still have compression on the 2 month time frame, and when looking at the index, you know, realistically, we're more likely than not going to see the monthly continuous expansion. That is more likely than not. And of course, we're looking for that to bleed over into the 2 month. Stoke is pivoted up, 27,800 basically, 27,750, looking very good. And BBWP looking to turn back up. As soon as that gets above the moving average and the moving average gets a positive slope, we're in parabola territory, more than likely. Larger pullbacks on the daily and in between time frames, you know, between the daily and weekly, likely getting picked up very quickly. This is more than likely in the 2 month going to line up with, you know, the halving and supply squeeze, stuff like that. So could there be a major dip before that? Sure. Could there be a major dip right around the halving? Sure. You know, position for the mega blast off? Sure. Could it go up and swing $69,000 and just go into a massive consolidation sideways? Absolutely. Anything could happen. We are seeing structural changes occur in Bitcoin that we have never seen before. So you got to keep an open mind. You know, we had never really seen a double top in Bitcoin. But, you know, from the 18 lows to the highs in 21, it's looking on the longer term time frames like the quarterly here, like a soft squeeze to the top side with a nice pull back to a quarterly squeeze that could last and for quite a long time before re-expansion. If it starts to expand above, you know, 60k, 59.5 on the quarterly though, oh boy, big moves. It's a sideways and up squeeze basically, and it's probably going to last forever, quite frankly. I know that that's not what the take is from most people, and my anecdotal analysis on that might be proven to be wrong over time, but I'm bullish on Bitcoin. Let's put it that way. Very bullish on Bitcoin. Will I be discussing mining? Yes, I'm going to be discussing mining. So for some of you that you may not know, there is a private stream running for those that cannot access YouTube, X in terms of the streaming, and Twitch because of their location, and they're throwing some questions at me. Yeah, so I will be doing a video about installing Bitcoin Core and running Bitcoin Core, not for mining purposes, but for validation and management purposes, and managing your own wallet and connecting it to Tor. Because at minimum, you can do this. It's you're not mining unless you want to turn on mining, but you know, you should be learning how to use Bitcoin Core. There's other platforms you can use, but Bitcoin Core being in my opinion, the best one to use, at least currently. If you're going to run it on a computer, whether it's a laptop or a PC, doesn't really matter. I do suggest a I do suggest that you run it on a virtual machine and connect it to Tor. And I will walk through that process of downloading, installing, and connecting to Tor. You will need sizable space, so I believe the blockchain is around 650 gigabytes right now. Probably want to give yourself room. 1 terabyte if you're going to be running Core. Yeah. And it does contribute to the security of the network and ease of management and privacy stuff for management of your own wallets and stuff like that. Yeah. And then I will get into, if you want to mine, we'll work our way into actually mining. I have to figure out a manner in which to present that information. Solo mining is something that's very possible now for very cheap. And, I would be looking into it. I would not be expecting to solo mine any blocks, but for understanding the network and decentralization and security, solo mining is viable. It's inexpensive from the power side of things with many of these different products that are out there and different projects that are basically ripping ASICs out of Antminers and attaching them to hash boards of their own design, and then linking that to software, and they can pull like 20-25 watts and stuff like that, and you can run your own miner basically, and you can go solo mining, you can federate mining, you can do whatever you want. You can join pools and contribute to the hash power of the pool if you want. I like solo mining. I'm also joined to some pools as well. Yeah, that I'm going to be diving deep into that stuff, especially until we see derivatives trading on ETFs, which is options. So, and then we're going to be diving deep into options. Yeah. We're going to go through an options overview of what options are, the theory behind options in terms of understanding what they are, why they're used. We'll get into the technicals of analyzing options prices, which is the Greeks, and then simple bracketing strategies or directional strategies. Nothing crazy. You'll have to figure out what it is that you want to do as it relates to your trading plan or your goals for growing your account. Now, of course, if you're doing options trades on Bitcoin ETFs, you are, in many cases, you're probably holding Bitcoin and maybe using it as a hedge. So maybe you hedge against by, taking puts, buying puts in this case, or selling calls. So directional stuff against your underlying asset holdings that you personally have. If you have the actual options, which I do suggest, I would have at minimum, if you want to sell covered calls, you need to have 100. 100 shares, yep. So, and I've already been prepping with options. So I've been prepping for options, potential covered call scenarios. And, cover call is really a long play, but it gives you options because you can always adjust to the other side of that with the put side of the spread and stuff like that. So there's always options as long as you understand what your goals are and what you want to do. So I've already prepped by buying a few different ETF shares, and I've been buying lots of about 100. So. And yes, there is a 90-day on those where where there is no sales. So that's one of the reasons why you're seeing the nice squeeze up. And I would expect, options probably go live around the same time as that 90-day period is up. But you know, a lot of people making a big deal about the 90-day period. It doesn't really matter. Like, if you're exiting before the halving, you're probably gonna get real sad. This is in my personal opinion, not financial advice. This is, you need to, if you haven't been accumulating, if you weren't accumulating during the bear market, you better accumulate before things take off, or you're going to be sidelined and chasing trades, and that's not a good position to be in. More people get wrecked chasing the bull market trades than, you know, by then, you know, people have already been washed out in the bear market. So, you know, if you're chasing during the bull market, you can get wrecked easy. Are we entering green button only territory? You know, when I say, for me personally, I still take shorts and play the ranges, but they're scalps at this point. I'm not in the position of taking longer term swing trades to the downside. This is not financial advice, of course. I'm not interested in those right now. I don't think that is the for the aggregate of my portfolio holdings when it comes to this. I don't think that's the smartest play. But you know, I've played the short side on scalps even earlier today. Yeah. Well, I guess it was late last night, earlier today. But just scalps at this point. They can profit aggressively, and, you know, I'll bracket the range much like what Bobby was explaining. He's in a short and long position, and he's bracketing the low side by taking longs, and then as it hits the high side of the range, he's taking out shorts, and then you just let one side go whenever you see a break. It's easy. Essentially, you'll be able to do the same and get more options with options on ETFs, but of course you're trading for fiat cash at that point. So if you're doing anything and you are somebody who wants to accumulate more Bitcoin, you're hedging and then using that cash to buy more of the underlying asset. Yeah. Let's go ahead over here. Leroy, Jedi Leroy says he's topping up his account to bracket to do exactly what I just explained. Something about FCA rules. I'm not familiar. Being here in the United States, I'm a dummy when it comes to international stuff. So. Yeah, UK is cracking down on Mickey Mouse exchanges, from what I've been hearing as well. Even if they're licensed, they're looking to crack down on them. My personal thoughts on that is, you know, most all Western nations are going to be pushing everyone towards the traditional market stuff, and then closing the doors once you're there, lock you in. So if you're gonna get into Bitcoin and you want to hold before it's all off market, you might want to have a cold wallet. Again, not financial advice, no. Can I talk in detail about? No, I cannot, because I'm involved in the market. So no, I cannot talk to you about that. OTC desks, I can talk a little bit about that. So OTC desks are trying to plan how to obtain more Bitcoin heading into the halving. These are discussions that are ongoing. Supply squeeze is already real. Yes. ETFs are sucking up a lot of Bitcoin. Yep. Oh, okay. Good question. So the question is because we see that the ETFs are buying this large amount of Bitcoin versus what is even being produced on a daily basis, and given that holders are really only going to be willing to sell at higher prices well, it's going to lead to higher prices, right? But even then, when they begin to sell, you're still supply restricted because of the halving. So you will likely see volumes pick up as, holders, long-term holders really aren't going to do much until prices are past the all-time high. But you're likely to see movement from shorter-term time frame holders that start to free up some liquidity. But that's, especially post-halving, that liquidity is going to get sucked up very quickly. And realistically, it is, where's the rest of the liquidity? Well, it's on all these Mickey Mouse exchanges. Do they really have the Bitcoin? And this is where you could see a scenario where a lot of these exchanges just go away by virtue of having, rehypothecated Bitcoin on the exchanges, and they end up failing on the way up instead of the way down. And traditional market players, ETFs in this case, are basically sniping them right out of the market on the way up because they literally have no way to obtain more Bitcoin. And then it leaves their holders hanging. And where else can the holders go if they want to be back in? Well, you go to the ETFs, or you go and you try to bid on some of these, decentralized Bitcoin exchanges that are stupidly low liquidity and don't have shit, while the miners are literally being, cleaned out by OTC to transfer to, in this case, in many cases, for most ETFs, Coinbase custody for the ETF backing. So, and I've mentioned this before, but there might be a scenario at some point, maybe sooner than later, where you literally see a market lockup, which would send prices to insane levels. Do I think it's going to happen this cycle? Yeah, I have my doubts, but a market lockup because of no supply is realistic, and that's, the prices of Bitcoin during that time frame would be extremely volatile to the upside and then extremely volatile to the downside, because that upside price action would free up that liquidity. People are going to want to move, take advantage of that high price and get out, take some profits, stuff like that. So that's really the only path forward in a scenario like that, is higher prices to get people to sell their Bitcoin and then hoover that up into these centralized entities. Where do I think things go from there? Oh man, you're baiting me into the conversation now. I see what you're doing. Where do I think things go from there? Look, we're going to have to fight for our rights when it comes to Bitcoin. Trust me. It's a total trust me bro scenario, conversation, whatever you want to call it, but it's coming. And if you don't see it, you're blind. And maybe take the blinders off and look at the reality of limited supply, high demand from centralized players that want to gain control. So I have talked about this, not publicly, but I have talked about the scenario in which Bitcoin is the backing for a CBDC, because that would be the other way in which you limit the on and off ramps, right? With you and then you can pitch it in many different ways. Like, look, freedom money, you can audit and all this other stuff, but you're literally gated on entry and exit for the actual everyday systems that you're going to be using, with the goal of preventing Bitcoin from becoming a monetary medium of exchange. But although that could likely be a possibility, and I think it's a short term, if that were something that were to happen, I do believe it would be short-lived. And when I say short-lived, I don't mean like a year or two. I mean like 10 years, 20 years short-lived. I'm talking grander time frames in this case. Because Bitcoin will eventually, in my opinion, again, this is just opinion, will become the base layer of the energy output of society. I've said this many times before. It will infiltrate every single aspect of our lives without even being seen in many cases. I do think that that is the path in which it is on, and we need Bitcoin to infiltrate the traditional market systems, and these players are bringing it on in a big way. It is the Trojan horse for the entirety of the financial system through Wall Street, and that is the vector. This is just the beginning, so on and so forth, and you can extrapolate from there and form your own opinions, but I am on the side of I view this as a good thing. That does not mean that bad times for people who hold Bitcoin and value freedom will not be tested to their very core, because they will be. All of us will be. So, sounds dire. It's really not. You roll with the punches, and keep yourself liquid. Make sure that you have Bitcoin. In my opinion, not financial advice, but make sure that you have Bitcoin in cold storage. You have it, in many cases, you should have it multi-sigged for yourself. I know that that is not something that everyone's going to want to do, but I do suggest that just in case you get a knock on your door and we gotta come in. We found your wallet address on chain and we tracked it back somehow to your IP, and we know that you've got it. Show us your safe. Well, if you've got multi-sig and it's across a few different hardware devices, well, good luck. Here, you can have this one. This is the only one I have here. Bye-bye. Have fun. You know, could that extrapolate out into much worse things? Sure. Do I think that that is the most viable way for it to be approached? No. In fact, what would be more viable would be is to make it attractive. Like, hey, we're doing the right thing finally. Our quote-unquote CBDC is backed by this, and you can audit, and you can do this, and do the pitch to get everybody on board, and just slowly take it away little by little so that the holdings are all aggregated centrally. But under the guise of, you know, it's backing everything, so don't worry. That's much easier to do, and you know, totalitarian methods only work for so long. So you'd rather ingratiate yourself to people and make it all a good thing, make it all a managed thing, so that you can arbit, you can, you know, make money off of it, right? And have it become something that everybody would benefit from, but you still, as the entities in control, benefit more. That would be the likely scenario. I mean, this is I don't have fully formed opinions on this. It's just anecdotal thoughts, and I would tell you that no one really knows, but I will tell you that there's going to be there is a fight in the near future coming over this. So my opinion is get your coins off exchanges, at least the bulk of them, whatever you're not going to trade with. Hold it cold storage, multi-sig it, or keep some in, you know, single sig and then some multi-sig, however you want to structure it. But you should also know how to run Bitcoin Core. You should know how to connect a Tor, all that good stuff as well. And development on Bitcoin is going to proceed at lightning speed. And I do not mean lightning network, but lightning speed in terms of development. And Bitcoin will very quickly infiltrate everything around us. So it will be the base layer of the output, the energy output of society, just so you know. It's going to be. It's inevitable. I'm 100% confident in that statement. Yeah. Cool. Do I know what cubic coin is? No, I do not. No idea what that is. You would have to explain it to me or link me to a white paper for me to understand what that is. Preferably link me to a white paper. Oh, by the way, hello. Oh yeah, I already said hello. You were up top. You're one of the first ones in here. Cool. Have I seen Matthew Crowder's newest video? No, I have not. Not yet. It's about Coinbase. Okay. Yeah, I'll watch it. I'm sure that he's probably talking about things in much the manner that I am. If I had to guess. Maybe a little bit more specifically and not as evasive as I am being. Look, because of the contact with OTC, there's things that I just won't talk about. Bobby's into these cat ordinals right now. What are they called? DMT cats or something? I know that I think they're ripping, or they're doing well, as far as I know. Did I get in on any of the new ordinals? No, I haven't really. Not really. Some here and there. I'm just holding tokens or some, NFT collectible stuff. If it goes up, it goes up. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't really care. I didn't barely spend. Most of it was free mints. You just paid, the fee. Some have even been fee free, so you're just paying network. So it's basically dust, Bitcoin dust on it. Do I suggest getting into ordinals? Do your own research, man. Could they take off? Absolutely. Are some of them already taking off? Sure. So you just got to be careful. One of the biggest things with ordinals that you need to pay attention to is volume. After most mints, you're going to see a lot of high volume, and then volume drops off and it dies. So you need to look for consistent volume day over day and week over week. If you see consistent volume day over day, week over week, you're looking good. Then, you have liquidity, basically. You don't want to see like one-shot liquidity. Like, oh, I did 40 Bitcoin, but it was like on the first day after the mint. And now it's trading at, 0.05 Bitcoin volume every day. It's like, no, that's not, you need liquidity. If you don't have liquidity and it's going to tell you if it's actively traded or not. I'm going to look this coin up because you guys keep talking about it. So go to CoinGecko and see if they have a website linked there. I have no idea how to even read that price. Trading volumes at 3.829 million, not billion. Let's go over here. I think this is the one that you're talking about. Let's go to their white paper. Revolutionary crypto platform reshaping the digital landscape. Well, don't they all? Using proof of work. Ooh, it's using quorum-based computation. Ooh. Let's take a look. Proof of work. Feeless transfers. Cubic sets a new standard for reliability, efficiency, and user-friendliness. Explore how Cubic combines the best aspects of existing platforms and eradicates their limitations. Let's look. Cubic units. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to read through this, huh? They got a decent website. Pioneering project that combines capabilities of distributed ledger technology and smart contracts. Is it its own L1 or is it an L2? What's it running on? Let's go to node types and we'll get a quick look at that. Nope, didn't. Let's go to tokenomics. Let me see here. Transfers feeless. That's cool. Smart contracts. Okay. They did an IPO, so. $1 trillion divided by 676, 1.479 billion. What are they showing over here? So they don't have the metrics for total supply here. Okay, what's the mining hardware? So they're doing CPU. CPU mining. Available mining software. Pool. So they're doing CPU mining. So they've, what are they? So you'll have to let me know. Is it a base chain with a layer 2 built on top of it already, or is it utilizing ETH or something similar? Because you can run layer 2 proof of work on ETH. I don't like this useful proof of work. It's traditional proof of work versus useful proof of work. I'll have to dig into this and let you know my thoughts on it. Okay, so Roca has some information. We pay doing useful like captchas, etc. Basically training the AI. Okay, you guys will have to catch me up to speed on it, and maybe I've got some beastly computers. Maybe I'll hook up and mine a bit, see what it's all about. And kind of go from there. It's not something I mined a couple of AI coins in the past. They did very, very well, and the miner rewards in the beginning were very, very nice, though they quickly dropped off. So it's more useful to trade some of those AI coins at this point, but they're doing CPU mining. It seems like Threadripper is the way to go. I have some 9 series. I have some older Threadrippers sitting around, so I might actually boot up their software and see what it's all about. Useful. Okay, so Roca is a useful proof of work, meaning it's not just computation for the blockchain; it's actually training the AI. Which is why the mining is CPU based. I wonder if they will set up their software to take advantage of the AI cores on various. Well, there's AI cores being built into newer processors. Or AI engines, and then there's AI engines and cores on most modern day GPUs as well. Interesting. I will dig into it, and I might even fire up a miner uh, in the next day or two and see how it goes. I'm more interested in mining stuff right now. Even when it comes to alts, I'm more interested in mining right now because I've already packed my bags for the alt runs and Bitcoin run. I'm not too interested in doing much more than mining during these time periods because fees, as bull markets kick off, fees go up. In most cases, now obviously this is feeless, but you know, many chains reward miners with fees for processing transactions as well as coins for mining. And I think that's a viable way to do it if you have extra hardware. I've got a whole stack of servers downstairs, Xeon servers, that I can boot up, and then I do have a couple running mining CPU-based coins. Many of the AI coins are CPU-based, and some are utilizing AI cores on GPUs. But it's not as prevalent. A lot to widen the miner pool are really just utilizing CPU processing right now. You'll see that change though, likely soon. Cool. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. I am going to let you all go. I will likely have a video for you tomorrow, that being a pre-recorded video, so we can follow up on some of the bigger closes coming in today. That being, as a reminder, the 2-day close. We also have the not 3-day close, but we've got the 5-day close coming in today as well. So I will follow up with this in tomorrow day for me after today's close. So it'll be tomorrow's open candle, and we'll follow up with some of these time frames like the 2-day, 5-day. We'll take a look at where things stand coming into the closes on the 3-day. The 4-day won't be coming until we stream next time, so I'll focus a little bit more on the daily and lower time frames as it relates to the 2-day, 5-day closes. And then, of course, I will have a live stream on Wednesday. It might actually be a little bit earlier, so I typically try to stream about 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, but I do have some things coming up on Wednesday that I have to do, so it might be a little bit earlier by either a half hour or an hour. So it'd be either 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It really depends on what the outlook for that day is looking like. If nothing else, it'll be the normal time. Today was a little bit later because it is a holiday over here, but it would just be a shorter stream. So all right, you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. I'm going to leave the stream going, so if you want to revisit your charts with some tunes on and take a look at some of the things that we talked about during the stream, you're more than welcome to. What do we got here? So that's 30. So I'll leave it up for about 10 minutes or so. And yeah. So you have a great one. I will talk to you guys in recorded format tomorrow and then live again on Wednesday. So take care. Thanks for hanging out with me. And Landy out.